Hello and welcome to Focus here on France 24. Now, there's over a decade to go until Qatar hosts football's World Cup in 2022. Nonetheless, the first test of whether the tiny Gulf state is up to the challenge comes rather sooner than that. It starts today with the beginning of the Asian Cup of Nations, and that's being held in, that's right, Qatar. The decision to give the World Cup to such a small emirate wasn't universally popular, but there is one country that's certainly not complaining. Germany. Come 2022, Qatar's new stadium will have a distinctly Teutonic feel because it's to the Germans that Qatar has turned for advice and help on how to host a cracking world football tournament. Anne Maillet's been investigating.
These are the plans for the World Cup in 2022, and Qatar now holds the keys. Behind it all is a team of architects and engineers from Albert Speer and Partner in Frankfurt. The firm drew up plans for the stadiums and designs for urban development. They put together Qatar's World Cup bid with great care. It weighs more than 4 kilograms. The team have earned themselves a reputation. A couple of years back, South Africa asked for help in its bid for the 2010 World Cup.
Germany is recognized internationally for its expertise in planning, and German engineering is much sought after. The 2006 World Cup in Germany gave us the chance to prove that German design can be detailed and reliable.
The stadiums will be kept cool using a system running on solar power, keeping the temperature at a steady 20 degrees. Afterwards, the stadiums can be taken apart and offered to football federations in developing countries. The first World Cup in the Middle East will be all about innovation. Now Qatar has won the bid, they're expected to sign the first contracts with Albert Speer and Partner next week. The architects ought to be flat out for the next decade.
It's a whole new market that's opening up to us. This will be the first time that we work on a sporting event of this scale, and the first time that we've planned and designed from the start.
And Qatar isn't just interested in what German architects and engineers have to offer. The German rail company Deutsche Bahn has been asked to construct a new metro line, and the construction giant Hochtief will build the stadiums and team base camps. Beyond that, dozens more small and medium-sized German companies are expected to win lucrative contracts. Qatar may be buying German know-how in bulk, but they're also investing. They now hold stakes in Volkswagen, Porsche and Hochtief. In 2009, Qatar invested 4.5 billion euros in the Made in Germany label. For the Middle East specialists, it's just the beginning.
These are prestigious companies with huge market value and which promise long-term returns. What I think Qatar wants to do is to really invest in companies when they're running minimal risk of making losses in the next 5 to 10 years.
And as Qatar invests in its post-petrol future, Germany could continue to profit long after the World Cup is over.
Well, for more on those German contributions to Qatar's infrastructure, our Germany correspondent Jessica Saltz joins us now on the line from Berlin. Many thanks for joining us this morning, Jessica. So has Qatar had links with Germany for a long time, or is this something of a new relationship?
Well, this relationship is actually a recent one, but it looks only set to get stronger, especially in the run-up to the World Cup in 2022 and after, as Qatar is calling on German companies of all sizes to help build up its infrastructure. It's an all-important move for the country that I think realises now that it can't survive on selling oil and gas forever. And Germany is one of the top exporters of goods and services in the world, especially with a strong, reliable reputation in the building industry, is an obvious place to turn. When it came to making the bid for the World Cup in 2022, Qatar employed the help of a Bavarian advertising agency. And after the visible success of the German building and organisation for the 2006 World Cup, which took place here, 2 leading German architectural companies have been employed to design most of the high-tech stadiums, and 8 of the 12 stadiums which will be needed in Qatar have been designed by Albert Speer and Partner. The German construction company Hochtief is already working on building projects in the region with around 5,000 workers there. Qatar also plans to invest about 17 billion euros into developing its regional long-distance rail network. And here again, we see the Germans being employed. Deutsche Bahn will build 4 metro lines with around 98 stations in the country. And also in the run-up to the World Cup, there will be about $17 billion invested in tourist infrastructure, where we will also see German companies being employed. And I think Qatar is really seizing its moment and realizing the need to diversify, and also investing in really reputable household names such as Porsche and Volkswagen is also good for the country.
Oh, Jessica Saltz in Berlin, thank you very much indeed for talking to us. Now, Qatar's hosting of both the Asian Cup and the World Cup have put it firmly in the spotlight, not just for soccer fans, though. Once one of the poorest Gulf states with an economy based on pearl fishing, it's now one of the richest countries in the region, thanks to the exploitation of large oil and gas fields since the 1940s. Now, for more information on Qatar's rise to global prominence, we're joined on the line from London by Ali Al-Safar, who's a deputy editor at the Economist Intelligence Unit there. Mr. Al-Safar, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on France 24. So the Asian Cup, the 2022 World Cup, big coups for Qatar, but it's not known as a footballing nation, is it? So why did these bids come about in the first place?
Good morning. No, it's certainly not known as a footballing nation. I think not even in Asia, let alone the wider world. But what Qatar is known for is punching above its weight, both economically and politically in the region as well. I think this is part of that wider concept. I think the Qatari rulers see themselves as being far more important than what their minor, neighborhood kind of status dictates. It's a country that is, by all means, tiny. It's got maybe 240,000 citizens. So it is the smallest country in the world to have ever hosted the World Cup. But it is also a sign of a rise to prominence by Qatar.
Now, clearly these bids were successful, but so what did make Qatar attractive to FIFA in the first place?
Qatar's bid was actually a very attractive one throughout. I think they outlined a very sustainable project. I think the World Cup selectors realized that Qatar that the World Cup to Qatar meant much more for its development than perhaps the other countries. I think it also got the luck of the draw, coming against countries that had actually hosted the World Cup before in the recent past. But the entire bid outlines infrastructure spending somewhere in the region of $100 billion over the next 10 years. Just in November, the finance minister announced that $140 billion would be spent over the next 4 years. And I don't think there's much doubt that Qatar will actually be able to carry out these infrastructure projects.
Now, just very briefly, we saw in that report there that Qatar's looking to invest in European nations, particularly Germany, with companies like Porsche, etc. Is it investing in other countries as well, or is Germany one of its main targets there?
I think it's investing throughout. It's in the Qatar Investment Authority, which is the sovereign wealth fund where most of the petrochemical money is funneled, invested somewhere in the region of $36 billion last year. And they're investing in worldwide names. So you mentioned Volkswagen, you mentioned Porsche, but there's also Harrods. The Qatar Investment Authority also owns the American Embassy building in London.
Well, I'm afraid that's just about all we've got time for on Focus today. Thank you very much, Ali Al-Safar, for joining us here on France 24. Thank you to you for watching as well, and do stay tuned to France 24.